People, can I have your attention, please? Thank you all for coming here today. As you know, we're here to rehearse our play for social studies class.
Robbie, we're here to write our Thanksgiving play for social studies class. We can't rehearse something that we haven't written yet.
Exactly, and because I'm obviously the best writer in class, I've written all the scripts. I've also casted all the parts. I'll be the director.
Wait a minute, the assemblers of the play's group. Nobody in charge.
I put me in charge.
But the rest of us have been doing research all week for this project.
That's great. If you understand your characters, it'll make my job as director much easier. John, you're the narrator. Carlo, you get to be the king of the Indians.
Do you mean Massasoit?
Yeah, sure.
He wasn't the king of the Indians, he was the chief. A Native American chief was called a Saxon. That's where casters should sit. Since the Pilgrims had came to England, they might call it Saxon king, but it wasn't royalty. It was the leader who worked alongside the rest of the tribe.
Alright, well, Carlo, you can be Massasoit. Now let's get started.
Robbie, sister, that...
No more questions. I'll take questions at the end of rehearsal. Places, people. Places, and action.
In the autumn of 1621, the Pilgrims sat down to eat a great feast with the Wampanoag Indians. Like we do today, the Pilgrims and Indians filled their glasses with turkey, sweet potatoes, corn on the cob, and cranberry sauce.
Excuse me, Chief. I'm not sorry. Could you please pass the ham?
Hold it! This is all wrong.
No kidding! This is all wrong. They didn't eat ham. There were no pigs and pumpkins in 1621.
What are you talking about? I meant Emily's delivery of the line was all wrong. Emily, you have to put some feeling into your lines. You have to sound like you really want the ham.
But Dan's right. There were no pigs in Plymouth in 1621, so there was no ham. They didn't eat sweet potatoes either.
And the corn they ate wasn't corn on the cob. It was cornmeal made from Indian corn that the Wampanoags brought to the feast.
Are you sure about this?
Positive. And they didn't eat cranberry sauce either. They didn't have any sugar. You need sugar to make cranberry sauce.
So what did they do? Just want their own cranberries?
And raspberries, and strawberries, and grapes, and all sorts of other foods.
That's ridiculous. Whoever heard of eating grapes at Thanksgiving dinner?
Maybe no one eats grapes at Thanksgiving dinner now, but in 1621 they most likely did. Did you do any research all of this play, Robbie? Or did you just write a whole script about what you and your family do in November every year?
The feast we're supposed to be learning about wasn't in November in 1621. It was in October after the harvest.
I know that. The time of my play is in October, not November. Everybody knows that the first Thanksgiving wasn't in November. I mean, of course, I know that. Now, can we continue with the play? Sitting here yapping isn't getting it done. Places, people. Places, and action.
Thank you for inviting us to this wonderful dinner. Since you've just arrived, we're grateful to be among us. My people and I are pleased about our peace treat, and we are pleased to sit and feast with you on this one night of Thanksgiving dinner.
Oh, come on, Robbie. How did you get so many things wrong in one little line?
I was about to ask Carlo the same thing. Carlo, you're Massasoit, chief Indian. You have to sound like a leader, not a mouse.
But that's all wrong. First of all, the Pilgrims have been planned for nearly a whole year. They arrived in November of 1620, but the feast was in 1621. They didn't call it Thanksgiving dinner either.
For the English, it wasn't even a celebration of things.
Of course it was. The Pilgrims are thankful for a peace treaty with the Wampanoag, so they invited them to dinner.
Well, that's sort of correct. The English and the Wampanoag signed a peace treaty in April of 1621, which made them allies.
Right. The Wampanoag wanted the treaty so the English would be their allies when they are arguing with other Native Americans. And the English wanted the treaty so they could occupy the land itself without trouble from the Wampanoag.
Oh, come on! This has nothing to do with the first Thanksgiving. Karina, take it from your mind. God, we say our thanks on this more bountiful feast we have.
Robbie, the script has so many mistakes. The English were celebrating a good harvest. Every year they held a 3-day celebration when their harvest in 1621 because they had a good relationship between the Wampanoags, so due to the peace treaty, they invited them to have a good harvest.
So for the Pilgrims, it wasn't a day of thanking God for anything. If they wanted to thank God, they would have their prayer back. They wouldn't have eaten a giant feast.
You mean the English were just happy about a good harvest, so they celebrated?
Exactly.
I really did make a lot of mistakes in this play.
Maybe we should have brainers without the rest of us.
I guess you're right. You all did a lot more research than I did.
We should all just start over and write the play as we go.
I second that idea.
Okay, I've got some paper to put in my bag.
I like Robbie's idea. Let's make a list of characters first.
Well, there was my story about 90 of the Wampanoag and all of the Pilgrims. I think there were about 50 of them.
All right, 50 Pilgrim men.
What?
Pilgrims were all men.
No, they weren't. They were both children were there.
Maybe one woman was there.
Elizabeth Hopkins was there with her husband, 4 kids, and 2 servants.
And Susanna Webb Winslow was there. She was the first woman to get married in Plymouth. She married Edward Winslow, who was one of the early governors of the colony. So we have about 50 English men, women, and children, and about 90 other old ones. There are enough of us to play all of them.
That's why it's easier probably narrator. We can use narrative to explain how many people were there.
That's a good idea. Then we wouldn't need 150 actors.
Right. Someone could play Massasoit and someone should play Squanto. He wasn't mentioned in Robbie's play at all.
Who is Squanto?
His real name was Squanto, but he was known as Squanto.
Right, he was part of the Wampanoag tribes. He was sent to Spain to be sold as a slave. He escaped to England where they taught him English and became an interpreter for people who were exploring the New World.
He ended up traveling on the Mayflower back to his homeland. Those people and the Pilgrims are negotiating a peace treaty between the two.
We should add him to our castles. He's very important part of the celebration.
Wait, hold everything. Don't anything yet. I have the best idea. It was way better than my other play. Let's write about the second Thanksgiving.
What?
Everyone writes about the first Thanksgiving, which it turns out wasn't really the first Thanksgiving at all. I bet in 1622 they had ham and sugar and all the stuff to have a real harvest feast like we do out today.
Except they didn't have Thanksgiving again until the end of the Revolutionary War.
Karina, what are you talking about? Why weren't they having a harvest feast?
Well, small groups might have had other harvest feasts, but there wasn't another big celebration until 1777.
And even then, it was only a regional holiday. Different groups celebrate at different times.
But when Abraham Lincoln was president, there were 2 national celebrations of Thanksgiving. One was after King Gettysburg, and the other was in November. That was the first official celebration of what we now call Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving began during the Civil War?
Right. Abraham thought Americans were very lucky to have a strong harvest and prosper during the Civil War. He thought it was something everyone should be thankful for. So he wrote the Thanksgiving Proclamation of 1863, which made the last Thursday in November a national holiday.
This is incredible. I had no idea what we always called the first Thanksgiving really happened in 1863.
So getting back to our original plan, I think we should stage your autumn play like it really was in 1621.
We should make a list of important facts first. Emily, you and I can work together, and Dan and Robbie and Karina and Carter.
Good, that's a good idea. However, why don't we be in charge of the pilgrims?
Then your list should be about the pilgrims' religious faiths and beliefs, how and why they came to begin with.
Ben and I can write about the Wampanoag tribes, how their tribe was run and how they lived.
Robbie, you and I can write about the peace treaty between the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag. I'll help you keep your facts straight.
Can I also be in charge of writing about the food? We can't have autumn harvest feast without talking about food.
Yeah, and we can't have people thinking that the Wampanoag and the Pilgrims ate cornbread and pumpkin pie.
Good point. Hey, that gives me an idea. You know what I think would be fun? Why don't we bring in food for the class and have a real feast after the play?
That would be fun!
I know how to cook a turkey.
I can read what you thought on cornmeal. I've never seen plain cornmeal. I think it sounds disgusting.
So we should bring some sort of fruit. I guess I could do that.
Robbie, what are you going to bring? Or will you be too busy directing the rest of us to bring anything?
Considering everyone else did so much more work than I did, maybe someone else deserves to be the director. Carla, I'll bring in fruit. I can't wait to go home and tell my parents that we should serve grapes for Thanksgiving dinner.